2019 Mayoral Forum. My name is Susan Crawford. I think you all know Donna Pittman, present mayor, Joseph Geierman, and former councilman, and Tom Hart, also former councilman, and I guess our fourth candidate isn't here yet, or isn't here. Our moderator tonight is Dave Bierce. No, he does not live in the city. Yes, thank you for coming. Ben Crawford and Patty will be keeping the time. Okay, so this is the way it's going to work. We have here a bowl. You're welcome to put your questions into it. And if you feel uncomfortable, how many people would rather have it in the back, would feel more comfortable? Okay, fine, just come up and at any time put your question in. I can't guarantee how many we'll get to, but we're going to start out with each candidate having 2 minutes to introduce himself or herself, and then 2 minutes at the end to wrap up. In between those two speeches, we will be asking questions. I'm going to go through them for redundancy, not censorship, but just so we don't have 5 questions, pretty much the same thing. Dave Bierce will be reading the question, and he'll probably start at one end or the other, and give that person whose turn it is a minute. The next people in line can then respond. If they don't choose to respond, they can pass, or if it's not relevant to them. No, Donna, they'll all be relevant to you, I think. If the question is for one specific person, of course, then that person will be addressed, and that person will answer the question. Okay, we will tell you when your time is up. And have I covered everything? Yeah, okay, yes. The 30-second and 15-second caution lights papers will be held up, and then when your time is completely up, we'll have not a red, but a subtle orange page in there, okay? Oh, and 2 nights ago we had the council debates forum, and there was one of the members was not here, Danielle Brown. She was injured. Actually, she fell. She was visiting family in Charlotte and fell and was injured and was unable to drive here. That's why she wasn't here. Any questions? I mean, questions about the questions. Okay, thank you.
The only opening remark I would make is our form of government needs a informed and participatory citizenship, and everybody here is doing a little bit of both. By being here in person, you're participating even if you don't ask a question or submit a question. Secondly, these are our candidates. We have to have candidates that are willing to serve. Personally, I think most elected officials are underpaid, so they're doing a big public service for us all. I'm always a little bit nervous speaking publicly. I would like just everybody to give just a brief round of applause for all the candidates together. So they really just in terms of the order, I guess Mr. Hart will start with you and come this way. As far as when we get to the questions, we'll rotate. I'll start on the end. You'll answer first question, then Joseph, and then Donna, unless the question is directed to a specific individual. So with that, we'll start with your opening statement.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for taking out your time in your busy day to listen to the candidates and make a decision tonight. We'd like to thank Ben and Susan Crawford and Dave Beers for taking their time, money, and resources. They're volunteers. They spend thousands of hours volunteering for this city and doing a great service, because we wouldn't have this tonight. Volunteerism is also part of me. I've given thousands of hours of volunteer hours to the city, anywhere from the dogs in the library to soapbox derby races to car shows. Volunteerism in the neighborhood, and so many people come out for these events to help. It shows that we have a vigorous community that wants to a positive future for the city. Our problem here is not the citizens in these different neighborhoods, because they're energized. They want, their hope and dream is that we will have a better future here. Our problem is the government that is dysfunctional right now. That's our problem. It's not the tax money. We have plenty of money, we just have a spending problem. And the biggest problem we have facing this city is the lawsuits facing this city. And one in particular, the cracked driveway lawsuit, has the potential of bankrupting the city. So you can forget about your hopes and dreams if you have a city that's bankrupt. This lawsuit basically outlines you have a rogue government in Doraville. It has to restructure itself. It's a reason why every year you spend more money than you take in. To give you a reference point, we take in twice as much money per person as the city of Brookhaven. We're awash in money. We just make some bad decisions, and this city's paying that price right now. We have to take and restructure the government. I'm done. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Joseph Geierman. Some of you may know me. I'm running for mayor because I'm really excited about Doraville and what we can be. I think that we're actually better positioned than Chamblee, Brookhaven, any of our neighboring cities. And all that it really is going to take to unlock our potential is to have some leadership with vision. As your mayor, I'm going to work tirelessly to fill up the empty storefronts and strip malls that have kind of emptied out along Beaufort Highway over the past 10 years. I'm going to work with council to improve our processes and make this a place that people actually want to come to. And I will go where developers are and other industry leaders to congregate, where they congregate, and talk up our city with them and get them to come here and take a second look at Doraville. One of my top priorities is to get started on downtown Doraville. That encompasses a civic center, which is on city-owned land, along with 10 other acres that the city owns. Much of that land is underutilized. It's directly across from a MARTA station, and it's almost criminal that we haven't done anything with it in all of this time, even though we've done years and years of plans to do something with it. I will work, when elected, I will work with the council to take concrete steps to do something to make this development happen and to get it started. We're the only city in the North Metro that doesn't have anything happening by our MARTA line, and we need to change that. Our strategy for the last 10 years has been to sit back and wait for developers to come to us. In some cases that's worked, like the Assembly, where Egbert Perry came in and did something for us, but in a lot of other cases, like the Kmart, we're still waiting 8 years after it closed. So with that said, I look forward to being your mayor and hope you vote on November 5th. Thank you.
Well, good evening. I'm Donna Pittman. I am your current mayor, and I've really enjoyed serving the community. I love my community. I am married. I have 4 children, and I have 5 grandchildren, so I'm better known as Mimi Mayor. I grew up in DeKalb County. I'm a native of DeKalb County. I've lived in Doraville for 32 years. My husband is served proudly in the United States Marine Corps, and I look forward to answering questions tonight.
The first question is kind of a two-parter. Why is there such high turnover with City Hall staff, and why hasn't Doraville been able to pay police a competitive salary? We'll start with you, Tom. I can repeat that. I wanted to cut you off there.
We have a hard time keeping people in City Hall because of the way our government currently structured. We have layer upon layer with subcontractors. We used to have 18 people in our maintenance department, we're down to 5. People that work for this city, whether it's the library or the maintenance department or the police department, are marking time. They've got a city that has lost its way. It fell off the tracks, okay? And we're supposed to have a certified clerk in City Hall. It was 2 years without one. The reason why our certified clerk, who is bilingual, now works in Brookhaven. They have 2 certified clerks. We don't have a certified clerk. People do not want to come to work here because the way the city is structured and the way it operates. It's called Speed Trap USA. You go back to the lawsuit, it spells it out. The judge got before the city's attorney and spelled out what the problems were. We have to redo the government. The city hall can be run with 8 employees, not 30 employees. We have lost the handle on this thing, and we're spending the city into bankruptcy. Thank you.
Joseph, same question.
Do you mind reading it
Yeah,
again?
certainly. Why is there such high turnover with city hall staff? Why hasn't Doraville been able to pay police a competitive salary?
All right, I'm not sure that there's high turnover at City Hall. I think there's quite a few tenured individuals there. I do think that we do have a problem with what we pay police and other staff members. I think that Doraville is underpaying a lot of the people who work there, and in some cases that demotivates people and maybe makes them more likely to go to other jurisdictions. I do think that we should be looking at what we're paying people and make sure that we need to identify which positions are most critical, whether they're first responders or people who are going to bring economic development to the city. We need to pay them a competitive wage, and then we need to go ahead and do that and maybe not have some of the other positions. We need to look at some of the other positions or things that we're doing and maybe change the way that we're doing them to save some money. Sorry, I got caught up in the time.
Only 3 of you.
I don't necessarily believe that people are leaving City Hall. We've had some people that have retired and have left. We've had some others that have transferred to other departments. So I think we have a really good staff. We have sometimes not enough staff for all the businesses that's coming in now, and that's really good. The police and the competitive salary simply has been a budget challenge. We recently did give them an increase. We gave them a step raise. They also, the council majority voted in incentives just recently, and we will continue to do that. We will, as the budget allows, we will continue to give them competitive raises so that we can compete with the outside cities.
Thank you. Again, please don't hesitate to ask me to reread a question.
Again, kind of a 2-part question. What are your plans to deal with multiple cars parked on the side of the street obstructing the flow of traffic? Too many cars per household. What are your plans to deal with boarding houses?
So next down in the list, Joseph, you answer
Sure.
first.
I think that the number of cars parked is a hard one because I think that in some cases, if you live on a street where you might want to have a party, you're not going to want to have all cars not allowed on the street, and then you get tickets when people come over. And so I think that needs to be worked out on a case-by-case basis with the people who actually live on the street giving input. As far as boarding houses, I mean, honestly, I think that the city needs to do a better job of lobbying Georgia Municipal Association to work with the state legislature to change laws so that we can both regulate rental houses, which the state currently prohibits us from doing, as well as just making sure that rentals are safe places to live. There are a lot of derelict rental houses in this house. Some of them are boarding units, and it's very hard for code enforcement to get into them and see what's going on. If we could lobby the state to change that, then I think we would get a long way towards solving that problem.
I do agree with Mr. Geierman that the cars on the street is a challenge. People think that would be an easy solution. However, enforcement of that is a real challenge. Our police department would have no way to know who lives there, who does not live there. If you're having relatives that are visiting, you don't want them to get tickets. So that could certainly use additional discussion. Enforcement of boarding houses, we have really cracked down recently on the boarding houses. It is very difficult for our staff to get inside if they do not let them in, and they cover it very, very well. I do agree that we need to lobby our legislators to change some laws to help us have better laws to be able to enforce that better.
Parking on the street, we had a big parking problem on Chestnut when I was on the council. We put up 35 no parking signs. They don't pay attention to that. They quadruple park on the street. So one day I called up to Cobb County and I said, we need some stripes. Next day they came out with a stripe truck, double yellow line, gore lines on each side. That was the end of the parking problem. People don't read. It's all subliminal, eyeballs and the steering wheel. And as far as the rental houses and all the problems with multifamily housing, it all comes down because we don't have a building official in the city. We used to. And the code enforcement is not the grass police. They work under the building official for the city. You work with the fire department, you work with water storm drains, you work with the building official. We've identified houses in the city and got rid of it. All it takes is you have to look at, they're advertising for 5 bedrooms and 16 kitchens, okay? And the house is supposed to be 3 bedrooms and 1.5 baths. It's an easy, simple solution. We just have, the government right now is not put together correctly. That's why we're being sued. Thank you.
Next question, Mayor Pittman, you'll answer first. How do you view the role of mayor? Are you there to direct staff and council or more ceremonial in nature?
Well, certainly not to direct staff, but I'm also not just ceremonial. So the role of the mayor is the leader of the elected body. I'm oftentimes the first face that people see when they come into City Hall, the first person that developers come in and talk to. The role of the city manager is to direct staff, is to hire and fire. The only person that mayor and council can fire is the city manager, and that's with a majority. I only vote if there's a tie. So it is certainly the city manager's job to run the day-to-day operations, and I basically go out and to the community, and I'm the face of the community, basically. I'm the ambassador for the city.
Thank you. Former Councilman Hart, same question.
Yes. This is a part-time job, part-time pay, but it's a full-time position. I'm retired now. I'm a retired environmental chemist. I want to unlock City Hall, unlock the doors at City Hall. You should be able to walk in there any day and find the mayor in the mayor's office, even though it's a part-time position. Communication is completely cut off in this city. No wonder you have no idea what's going on. Going to City Hall is locked up, tired, and every door in the city. So the first thing you need to do is hire the correct department heads. The only thing the mayor can do as a part-time mayor, you have control of the budget and you have the control of the agenda of the city. With those 2 items, you can get the right department heads and the right people to run the city. It's like the master sergeant in the Army. That's who runs the Army. It's not the general. Okay, thank you.
So I tend to disagree with Mr. Hart and agree with Ms. Pittman a little bit more. I think that the job of the mayor is really to lead the council in building consensus on particular items. That's why who the mayor is matters so much. If the mayor wants to go in a certain direction, the mayor can help the council come to consensuses in different directions, and if the mayor doesn't want to do something, nothing's going to get done because it doesn't get put on the agenda, and basically it gets killed by just being let to wither on the vine. I think, really thinking about the mayor position, you think about a CEO being the city manager and the board of directors, and the chairman of the board being the position. Board is the city council and the chairman is the mayor.
Can everyone hear us when we're talking in the back? Just want to be sure of that. Okay, great. This question's first directed to Mayor Pittman, and then it's slightly different for the other candidates, so you'll answer first on this. And then we'll go back to our order. that we were following, rotating who goes first. Mayor Pittman, why did you obtain $42,000 in campaign contributions, much of it from businesses we don't want in the city, such as car dealerships, massage parlors, and bus stations associated with sex trafficking?
Actually,
And I'll let the other candidates hear their part.
How would you handle contributions from controversial businesses? That's when your opportunity.
And actually, that is not accurate. The people that contributed to me actually believe in me and what I've done, and they want to see that to continue. The important thing is I reported everything that I have received. I did not try to hide anything. If it should come before us, you would obviously abstain if there was a vote that you needed to abstain from, noting that I only vote in a tie. But under no circumstances would any of those businesses influence any of my decisions or any way that I think. And those people that stated that gave me contributions is not accurate. So, thank you.
Mr. Hart? How would you handle contributions from controversial businesses?
Well, that's easy for me to answer. I signed an agreement when I signed up to run for mayor to run my campaign on less than $2,500. I don't receive any money for any of the car dealerships or any of these strip mall managers or massage parlors. So you're not gonna find any doormat flyers from me because I can't afford it with less than $2,500. So this campaign is, in the mayor's job, you're volunteering your services for the city. This is not a money-making situation. For me, it's about an open door policy and getting the city back on the tracks. This is not about a money issue, and it's not, you're not there to make money on this position. Thank you.
Well, I would say I question why you would need $50,000 to run for mayor of Doraville. It's not a campaign that really should take that much money. I am not running on $2,500, but I'm funding the campaign myself and with the donations from people who live in the community as well as some of my friends. If there was a business that I disagreed with what they did, I would refuse the contribution. Certainly if it was not in line with the vision that I share and the people who support me share, I would not support accepting a contribution from them.
Thank you.
Next question, this will be to you, Mr. Hart. Why doesn't the city periodically bid contracts for legal, IT, engineering, and other services?
That is a very good question. This is the most closed government probably in Georgia. They don't bid out anything. We've had the sidewalks of nowhere out here was done by an engineering firm that screwed up and put the sidewalks in the middle of, and we became the laughing stock of Georgia. It was used in GDOT advertising. We're not going to do any more of those, we promise. The city is using an engineering firm, a law firm, all the subcontractor services. They don't get bid out. The latest trash service, they were supposed to, 10 vendors tried to bid on it, and these people decided they didn't want it bid out, okay? So we need to open this city back up. There should be a direct connection between the people that live in this city and City Hall, and cut out all this stuff. All bids should be open at all the council meetings, not in the back room. Thank you.
So, my take on that, I do think that we should be bidding out our legal, our IT, our other regular recurring contracts. I also think that we should be looking at our trash service periodically and any other services that we're providing to the residents, because I think that that's ultimately, things change, the prices of things change. You need to check the market to see, are we still getting a good price, or are we being ripped off? I do think that it's time to look at a lot of those contracts, especially legal, especially IT. In terms of how the bid process works, I do think that some of that needs to be run by the city manager, and the city council doesn't get involved in the active part of the bid process. And I think that's one of the distinctions about the jobs between city manager and mayor. And just to be clear, I understand that difference.
And we do, and we have went out for bids, and no one's opening anything in the back room. As Mr. Geierman said, that a lot of those bids are handled by our city manager. I do agree that we should probably look at some of our services and review those and go out for bids for those that have not went out for bids in quite some time.
This question would be your turn, Mr. Geierman. How much money is in the city's reserve account, and are you comfortable with the amount of funds in this account?
I think right now we've got about a month of reserve fund. At least during the budget process, that's what we were told. I've got mixed feelings. I think that we should probably have a little bit more money in the reserve. We probably need maybe 3 months worth of reserves, or about 25% of the annual income. But we also don't want to go crazy and I keep hearing this $5 million number thrown out there, but you don't want to hold on to that money because it's your money. So if the city's holding on to $5 million, it's not doing its job in wisely using your money. So we need a good cushion, but we don't want to hold on to every dollar that we bring in, because ultimately it's your money, it's all of our money, and we need to be wise with how we spend it.
Okay. We have a $15 million budget. Federal regulations require that you have 2 months of funds for emergencies. The city policy says 3 months. We are over the amount that is required by federal, and we are almost right at 3 months worth of contingency funds that could be used for emergencies. This is something that we have worked on for quite some time. We used to have a lot of money, lots of money, but you do not want to sit on that money. That is the citizens' money. We need to be using that to pave streets, fix sidewalks and potholes. So we're right where we should be, and by the time of this fiscal year, we will be up to par, if not over.
Mayor, when you took office, you had $7 million in CDs. We had at least a year's supply of cash. And as a small business owner, started 3 corporations, conserve capital, and the meanest cat in the jungle's name is cash flow. This city cannot meet its monthly requirements. We're now having to lease purchase police cars. When you took office, we paid cash for everything. I think we're leasing toilet paper in City Hall. We do not have the reserves because each year, since 2016, we're spending about $500,000 or more per year than we're taking in. We're down to 1 month in reserve. We've got this lawsuit facing us that will cut $4 million a year out of the budget. If you think that we've got plenty in reserve, we're spending the cash wisely, and you've got the right mix of employees in City Hall, you're sadly in error. Thank you.
Leave the next question for Ms. Pittman. Assuming you've already been able to vocalize your vision for Doraville, what are the 1 or 2 things you would focus on right away to help you move us toward your goal?
Well, I think that economic development is really, really important. Marketing our city is very, very important because you have to have economic development for your city to thrive. So that would probably be my #1 goal. What was the second one?
Just the 1 or 2 things that would focus on right away to help you move us toward your goal.
Well, and preservation of our neighborhoods, that's really important, and that can be done through our schools, improvement in schools, involvement in our schools, again, economic development through marketing and zoning and other things that needs to take place. So those are my 2 goals.
Mr. Hart.
First and foremost, we have to settle the multiple lawsuits facing the city. We've got to take care of that first because there's no point going forward beyond that because we won't have the cash to even operate the city. We've got to reorganize the government. One of the important things that could kick the development of the city off, there were 5 connectors that were designed in 2005 with the governor's office and GDOT. Those plans were thrown in the trash can. Those were supposed to be put in by GDOT, paid for by GDOT, and would absolutely launch the redevelopment of the city of Doraville. Those things need to be put back on the table. It's the #1 project in all of GDOT is the one connector, which is the Peachtree Road connector that I did with PP&J Engineering. We need to get the city going again and stop spending and wasting our own money in like projects like Oak Cliff Road. Thank you.
Mr. Geierman?
So, specific things that I would do on related to economic development. First, I already said it, I'd work on downtown Doraville. The 10 acres of land that the city actually owns, I think that the city council could really start working on this project now, and there's not a reason for us not to have done it up to this point. I think the other thing that I would do is work on downtown redevelopment through Beaufort Highway with our Downtown Development Authority. This is an economic agency that's empowered by the state to make deals with business owners and property owners to improve the properties, to bring businesses into the city, and it's been very underutilized in Doraville. We basically just bring it when a developer has a deal that they want us to give an incentive on. We should be using it to actively go out and try to get businesses to come here.
You'll be first, Mr. Hart, on this question. I'm gonna kind of combine two questions that are pretty close together. I'll read them one after another. What would you do to change the image or images that outsiders have of Doraville? Why do you think it is that developers and contractors have almost no interest in doing projects in Doraville?
Goes back to, again, the lawsuits. We have an international reputation. You can put lipstick on a pig, but you can't change the perception of developers and people about the city, whether it was misuse of its funds, or misuse of its police department, or misuse of its code enforcement in the city. We've got 35 buildable lots over on Winters Chapel and Tilly Mill area. We've got the whole downtown area is zoned for apartments. Says, oh yeah, we need to do this. Nobody's built a thing. We've got buildings downtown Doraville that's owned by the city. They're empty, and it's on purpose. For the last 10 years, they kicked the tenants out so they could call the city blighted, so that they would be eligible for federal block grants. Everything, like from the Kmart building to the post office building, in some way is controlled by the city of Doraville. We need to get this place back on track again and get these people out of government that are holding it back and get this thing going. 5 connectors, put it together, let's put the city back together. Thank you.
Well, I think there are things that we can do, like making our permitting processes easier, making sure that we're in line with what other cities are doing. I also think we haven't done a very good job of marketing ourselves. And also, if we start the Downtown Doraville project, we really can start making people talk about Doraville. We are neglected in the region, and in my day job, I was actually at an event with a bunch of real estate brokers on Monday morning, and one of them was saying that he had a project in Chamblee. I said, oh, well, did you ever get over to Doraville? And, he mentioned that he really has a hard time getting clients to even look at Doraville because, they have this perception that it's not someplace they want to be. So even if they're looking at Chamblee, they aren't looking at Doraville, which is really a travesty for us and something that we need to change and something that we can change with some hard work on it.
Well, I disagree that our image is bad. I work with developers, and I work with people every single day. I work with people every single day that love Doraville. We do have developers coming, and they are questioning what if they can build here. We have a new developer for the Kmart project. We have a developer for New Peachtree Road. We have a developer that is developing over on the old Fridays Plaza off Peachtree Industrial. We have more and more businesses coming to Assembly. So our image is not tainted. We have a very good city. We love our city. People do love our city. Everywhere I go, people talk about it. Is it perfect? No. Could it use improvement and much more marketing? Absolutely, it could. But I do not feel that our city has a bad image. I worked hard to make sure that we do not.
Thank you. I just ask that everybody maintain a level of decorum on both sides, in terms of either applause or not being as complimentary. I believe Mr. Hart answered the last question first, so this one's to Mr. Geierman. Why has Doraville downtown stayed the same? No growth, nothing happening in 10 years.
Please keep the conversations down so we can hear the candidate's response.
So, I mean, honestly, I'm baffled by that. I was on the Design Doraville Conference and Plan Committee, and all the people on that group that worked on our comprehensive plan said this is something the city should get started right away. That was back in 2015. It's 2019. I ran for city council because it was something I wanted to work on. And, you know, we had one meeting where we talked about making more plans. We've had plans about it in 2009. We did plans about it in 2015. We really shouldn't be making any more plans about downtown Doraville. We should be working on what can we do to work with someone, and it doesn't even have to be the whole space, but we could take the old CPAX building and start there. Get someone to take that building and build something new on it, and just start building off of that. So whatever we do, I just hope the city gets started on it soon, because we don't have time to waste.
So our downtown development takes money to develop, and money that we do not have right now. If we focused on a master developer, I do agree that we need to start somewhere, but if you had a master developer, they could start building the projects, and then we would in turn repay them. So that's actually the way to start, is with a master developer. And we have some challenges because a lot of that is parkland, and that has to be replaced with parkland. So it's not just as easy as that, is to go develop the whole area. You have to replace parkland with parkland, and so that presents another challenge. We are going to be tearing down several of our buildings. In the next few weeks, you will see the demos start. So we're progressing and very excited about it, and I believe that is going to be on a priority list for our council to discuss in the upcoming work sessions that we have.
We were at,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I sincerely apologize.
This is more than a 30-second answer, you know, how you gonna redevelop the whole downtown? You got 20 seconds.
Got a minute.
A minute, okay. I worked with Norcross when they developed downtown Norcross. This is from the start. It was a $5,000 investment on an ice cream parlor and a park bench, okay? They put $60,000 in a coffee shop, and they rented out their train station, and it built a restaurant. It's an incremental approach where you start off, you have to seed the development. And once it becomes a good idea, then you use private development money. You don't need a dime's worth of city money to develop this downtown. Back in the 40s, and when the city started, it was laid out correctly. You had housing downtown, which is illegal to live in now. You have a place on top of the hill for a town square and a green space. You have a civic block, and you have your 10-acre park surrounded by various forms of housing that's near this transportation source. You need to rebuild you have to bring the post office back downtown from the hole it's in right now. You need businesses, a coffee shop, you need a place to buy chocolates or whatever. These are little items that bring attention to the developer, and retail requires eyeballs.
You used your whole minute, like you said you would.
I could go on for a couple of days. Thank you.
This question to Mayor Pittman, it's your turn in order, it's not directed at you in particular. Why are the cars being stored on the GM property, and is there a plan to get rid of them? Do you think these cars are keeping businesses from opening there?
Well, they're not keeping businesses from opening there. There was a short-term agreement, a long-term agreement, and a short-term agreement with the owners of the property in the city.
Could you elaborate?
What do you want me to elaborate on? As a short-term, a long-term agreement was that there were some issues going on with 285 and some issues other places, and they had no place to store their cars, so they stored them there. The council agreed to do a short-term, long-term agreement. And so it is not by no means stopping any development.
Can you tell us when the time is up?
I don't have that in front of me, I'm sorry.
Mr. Hart, your chance?
I made an open records request about these car lots that are on the GM property, other than the Nissan dealership. None of them had a business license, and it's not zoned for the parking of these unlicensed and unregistered cars. We got rid of the one on New Peachtree Road because you shine the light of day on the city government, it's like things go away, all right? It just so happens that these cars are owned by Hennessy and Jim Ellis, your campaign donors, okay? That's how they got there. The reason why we have car lots, expansion of car lots in the GM property, we have a person that drives luxury cars. It happened to be the same ones that own these dealerships. So the first day I'm in office, we're getting rid of all this illegally parked cars on the GM property. It's not zoned for it. They don't have a business license to do it. It's called the hookup at City Hall. Thank you.
Well, first, I don't know what the agreement is that the city has with Assembly or the car lot. So, you know, I don't want the city to violate any agreements that it's signed, you know, for whatever the term is. Do I think that those cars should be there? Not really. I think that it probably is a detractor from overall the sense of what Assembly is or what it could be. I think it's kind of a thing that's there to make some money for the developer in the interim while they try to build out the southern portion of the site. It doesn't fit in with our zoning and is a special conditional use permit, so certainly we need to look at that, and if there's a way to change it, you know, I would look at changing it.
I think our rotation is, you starting first on this question, Mr. Hart. Please speak to the ethics of real estate agents, bankers, professionals, being on city council, planning commission, or mayor.
That has been a huge problem for the city. We have DDA boards and URA boards and boards on boards and CID boards, and we've got people that work for the ARC or for people that we have to do business with. It's conflict of interest if you're staffed with ARC members, Atlanta Regional Council, they're promoting a certain project, and you're at the other end okay in the project. We should have no one on these boards. And incidentally, on the GM property, we have a URA that's an umbrella over the top of the TAD, the CID, and all the rest of this mess. We have not had one report. We have no idea what's going on over there. You can't make a public records request because there is none, okay? And the city council should be overlooking this TAD that we have there. This URA is superfluous. We don't need to have that commission. Thank you.
Repeat the question.
Please speak as to the ethics of real estate agents, bankers, professionals being on city council, planning commission, or mayor.
Well, I think that it's great to have professionals in those roles. I don't really understand why someone would be against that. I do think that we should be looking for a wide variety of people for many different roles for all of our boards and commissions. And I would also like to see more boards and commissions where we can get a broader cross section of people involved in the actions of the city. So, you know, I don't have a problem with realtors, bankers, or anyone else being affiliated with the city, especially if they're able to agree to recuse themselves if something with their business actually comes up, which is required by the state of Georgia ethics anyway.
I actually agree with that. You want professional people sitting on these boards, and there's nothing unethical about that. You want people and volunteers to have something to bring to the table. And we've had a lot of volunteers for our different boards. We have appointed a lot of great people to our boards, and no, this is volunteers. These are people that are spending their time to make our city better. So I think experience and jobs, I think it's wonderful to have professional people.
Thank you. I think by the rotation, this will be first to Mr. Geierman. I'm reading the words of someone else here. I have become increasingly interested in the core values of candidates for local offices. Given the opportunity, I would like to hear from each candidate what values they plan to keep in mind as they serve if elected. And the statement goes on to express a
great interest in communications?
Well, I think since I've lived in Doraville, I've been really focused on community building. Whether it's just working on projects within my community. I work to put up the Northwood signs at the entrance of our neighborhood. I was president of the neighborhood association. I've served on boards and committees. It's important to me to also build community among different people in the city, and that's something that I've been doing the entire time I've been here. I think for me the other important thing, and I think this is part of community building, is I think it's important to be communicating back and forth. I think communication is what builds that trust in community. And that's why I've had a newsletter that I've sent out every month since I was elected to city council and even before, and I still am using it even though I'm not on the city council now. So I think communication and community building would be the two primary core values.
Our core values are lead with purpose, lead with focus, and lead together.
Mr. Hart?
This city is made up of a very diverse population of people. The concerns of two streets in Northwoods are not the concern of people on Woodwood. It's not the concerns of people that are in my neighborhood, which is Gordon Heights. Everybody has a school issue, whatever it is. The key issue for the city and a core value for me is volunteerism, where you're meeting the needs of just the broad selection of people in the city. And I think that when we try to do something where we're just trying to just hook up one small group of people, you're not building that open office or that open communication with the city. And I think that's a really important thing for me, is because most of the citizens, when I went door to door, they feel that they're cut off from their city. They feel like they're isolated, only a small group of people. And I'm just the opposite of that. Some people say I'll talk to a tree, okay? I'm open to virtually
we're out of our
everyone in the
minutes.
city. Thank you.
Okay. I believe in the rotation, we're back to Ms. Pittman. What are your plans to get the GM plant going and make it a live, work, eat community?
We have a lot going on at the GM plant. We have Sir Simmons that just moved there. We have some other corporate headquarters that are looking to move there as well. There was some interesting news in the newspaper this past week. We have an amphitheater, a cinema, draft house will be coming there. We have restaurants that will be coming there. Those are already in the plans. Some contracts have not been signed, but they will be signed in the next few months. We have some multi-housing living that will be there, which, we all know that we need more people in our city. Some people want a Publix or a Kroger, and so you have to have more heads to be able to do that. You have to have more people and disposable income. So that's going to really help that. We continue to work with them. We continue to build relationships and meet with people. And that's what I do every single day, to make sure that we continue to have something viable with that. And it's been a catalyst for other developers that are coming to our city as well.
Mr. Hart?
The biggest problem with redevelopment of the GM property, and I attended several DDA meetings, is that the site is over leveraged. The developer purchased the property $50 million, zero money down. You have more money invested in this property in your morning coffee than this person does. As soon as they demoed the place, the demo permit shouldn't cost $500,000, it costs $2,500. Each building you see over there represents a public bond with a 30-year tax abatement. The developer doesn't own the property, it's actually owned by the DDA, it's owned by the people here in this room. It's being leased back to the developer. It's over leveraged. When they build something over there, they don't want to take on the $100 million bond issue that they're going to have to pay back. The developer, we really have the wrong developer for the site, and that's the reason why it's so troublesome. GM, am I done?
Yeah.
I'm going to stand up too just so more people can see me. I think there's a limit to what we can actually do to affect anything that happens at Assembly. I think the City Council will be asked if there's zoning changes or other things that need to be done over there. Integral has purchased it and they're going to be developing it. I think a lot of what happens over there is based on what happens in Chamblee. I mean, really, it's kind of a northern extension of the development that's happening in Chamblee already. Things will happen there. I think it will be slower than we all thought, but you know, like Mayor Pittman said, they are building some multifamily housing coming up. Where I think the city really should be focusing is all the empty storefronts along Buford Highway. You know, driving over here, we saw the empty McDonald's, the empty UAW hall, the empty car wash. If you look down, you know, go down the street further, you've got the empty Lionel Play World, you've got the empty Kmart. We've got so much stuff that needs to be worked on this side of Buford, on this side of the train tracks. We need to be focusing on it. It's a travesty that we haven't up to this point.
I believe the rotation is Mr. Hart first on this question. If elected, will you push for a quarterly outside auditor, and will the auditor's report be open to public review afterwards?
We have a financial policy for the city of Doraville. We're supposed to receive monthly financial reports at City Hall, on the website, and at the library. You haven't seen those in 12 years. We're supposed to have a bank with a charter in the city of Doraville where we keep our money. We don't keep it in Doraville, we keep it at SunTrust Bank in Chamblee. We're supposed to have, and I would call for, before you even step into office, you would have to call for a forensic audit by the Attorney General's office to find out where all the money's gone over the last 10, 12 years. There's a serious problem when you're bidding out contracts that should cost $12,000 that cost $700,000. We've got a huge problem with the money. It speaks directly to the lawsuits I talked about earlier. I don't want to keep on coming back to that same subject, but they're going to bankrupt you because this city, and the judge has said it, is being run by like a criminal organization. Thank you.
Well, I do think that especially as we're getting a new city manager, we should do a forensic audit and just understand everything that we have. I think that will be good for the city manager. I think that will be good for any new department heads that we end up hiring. It will be good for the city council, which is going to have a lot of new people, no matter what happens in this race, to understand just the basics of, you know, where the city is financially. I do think that the one thing I agree with Mr. Hart on is that we have not seen financial reports for a long time. The financial reports we've gotten have really lagged, and I don't think they've been shared with the public. I would say that pretty much about all the department reports, and I would like to see that change.
Well, a forensic audit costs about $100,000. You normally do that when you think that a crime has been committed. That is not a normal procedure. However, we do have auditors that audit us every year, and we actually just received a reward for that, which is a good thing. I do agree that we need more financial reports. We need them posted online for more transparency. We do need to move forward with the budget process in a more timely manner, and I think that the reports, though, is crucial.
Rotation would be Mr. Geierman. Answer this one first. If elected mayor, what 3 initiatives would you implement within the first 90 days in office to spur economic development within the city of Doraville?
Number one, I would start working on the downtown Doraville redevelopment. I don't think it needs to be a huge master plan. I think we should be looking at some individual sites within this plan first to kickstart the development. Once you interest a developer, and you can actually sell it to them, you know, give them some incentives to come in, and then you can start building out from that. I think number two, I would focus on the Downtown Development Authority. I think it's been underutilized. I think there should be a joint meeting with the council early in the year. Number three, I think it's a critical, and I'm surprised that hasn't been brought up. We need to search for a new city manager because that's the most important job in the city, and our city manager is not going to be here after December 31st.
Well, it pertains to zoning, I think, marketing and seeking potential developers. We had placed in the budget, an additional economic development person. That person needs to be out hitting the streets and filling those, vacant storefronts. And zoning. Zoning is a big deal. Our council has already started working on zoning to change some of the inappropriate zonings that we have. So we need to focus on zoning, marketing. Marketing is really big, and filling that position so someone will be out there beating the streets to make sure that we are filling those storefronts with businesses that we would like to have, and that's also done through zoning and changing the zoning to more appropriate uses.
The number one would be go to the governor's office and GDOT and get those 5 connectors rolling first thing. Because that is going to bring the developers in that have an infrastructure they can build from. Second thing is, I would populate the downtown, make sure that people could live in the houses that are currently in the downtown area to get some population in the downtown area. The third thing I would do is we have to settle the lawsuits. There's $650,000 worth of cash sitting in City Hall. We can't cash the checks right now. We were constantly picking fights with people. We lost the lawsuit with the Waffle House. That cost us a ton of money. We keep on, and GMA Insurance Company will not insure our attorneys any longer because we keep on picking these fights. That's a big thing. So you get people and businesses in the downtown. We already have a plan for the downtown that was thrown in the trash can in 2008. That doesn't cost the taxpayers a dime. Thank you.
I think our rotation is to Ms. Pittman. If elected, would you be willing to visit with residents in each neighborhood and look and listen to their needs and concerns? I'm referring to face-to-face interaction with groups of residents in each neighborhood, I being the writer of the question. If elected, will you be on hand in helping residents clean up their neighborhood?
Well, yes to both. I already am responsive. If you have reached out to me, you know that I even if it's in the middle of the night, I'm responsive to you. I will answer your questions. I will try to solve your problems, get you to the right staff member. I do want to meet with everyone. I enjoy meeting with the public. People come to my office all the time. They set up appointments. They come in and talk with their concerns. What was the second part?
If elected, will you be hands-on in helping residents clean up their neighborhood?
Absolutely. We have to work with our city council to be able to do that, to put regulations in place. I think some of the important things with code compliance, however you want to call it, there's 3 things. There's education, communication, and providing resources. Resources for people that might not want to, might not have the resources to, or the money to clean up or paint or whatever. So if you can provide resources, you know, Boy Scouts, other citizens that want to help do that, that's important. So absolutely, I think we have a very diverse community, so education and communication is key.
Communication starts with having an open city hall. You unlock the doors of City Hall so people can communicate with officials. Like I said before, I would be at City Hall with an open door every single day I'm in office. Because you can't, when people come to City Hall with problems, all you're doing is lock glass. You can't talk to a building official if you're building something. It might take you a year and a half, like myself. It took a year and a half to get a fence permit. It's because we have a non-functioning government. We have too many subcontractors. We don't have the key people in City Hall to operate an efficient government. In 2006, the city of Doraville, along with another city, was given an award by GMA as the most efficiently run city in Georgia because it did the most for the least amount of money. We've gone from that to the bottom of the barrel. You've got to restructure the government here so it responds to the people on a one-to-one basis if you go to City Hall, whether it be trash or your taxes, etc. Thank you.
So, yes, I think that the city should be doing town halls much more frequently. I think they should be in the neighborhoods where people are, and that we should be getting input on the types of projects that we're doing. So, you know, the Oak Cliff Road project, there really should have been a lot more outreach. There should have been a lot more public input, and there should have been a lot more notice to the people who live there about the project. So there could have been some discussion about what people wanted to see. and what the options were, and you know, hopefully it come up with something that people would have been a little bit happier with, and we wouldn't be going back to fix it before phase 2. You know, and I think that's just a general thing too, just having town halls in general to just get your feedback. Go to the park, meet the council in the park on a certain day. You know, other thing, the cleanup, yes, I would go to cleanups in all of our neighborhoods. There's actually one in Cary Reynolds this Saturday morning for anyone who wants to go, and I'll be there, so thank you.
Rotation has you answering this question first, Mr. Hart. What do you think Doraville's identity is, or what is it known for? What would you do to change or enhance that identity?
When I was on the city council, I hired the PR company. I also hired the first planner. He retired from Norcross, as Johnny Lawler, brought him down here to rebrand the city. I left shortly after that and ran for mayor. All those projects that we worked on to rebrand the city and re-image the city were thrown in the trash can. The first thing we need to do is we have to settle the lawsuits and have a positive image that we're not a speed trap anymore. We're not out beating people up over a cracked driveway. That the image for the city is a good place to live. That was the original designation for the city. It was understated. It wasn't bragging. It says a good place to live. And we need to get back to that good place to live. Thank you.
So I think that we need to build on the things that are working for us today. The reason that most people come to Doraville, apart from the MARTA station, is really for food, for items you can't get anywhere else, and for Buford Highway Farmers Market. I don't think those are the only things that we have, but we certainly should be promoting them to get people to come here and start, you know, having night markets so that people come out and sample the food from the different restaurants. The more people we get out here, the more people will start thinking, hey, Doraville, that's a place I want to be. I want to buy a house there. I want to buy a new condo there. And then as we build that momentum, then we can start having some more types of businesses. And I think that we also, you know, we need to fill in some gaps that are apart from those things too. But I certainly think that we need to build on the culture and the cuisine, which is really what Doraville, and especially this section of Buford Highway, is really known for. And we have some of the best restaurants in the region, and we need to be playing off of that.
So we have always been an industrial city. In 2011, we became something different because General Motors left. Our predecessors never thought that General Motors would leave. So we are now rebranding our city into something different other than an industrial city. And we are doing that through the different developments that you're seeing, the developments that are popping up over at the General Motors. Again, that is a catalyst for the rest of the city. The Kmart, the new developer of Kmart, they just took over that project a few weeks ago. And there's a live, work, play, hotels. We also have Friday's Plaza. So we are rebranding our city. I agree that marketing is important, activities are important, you want to bring people to our city, but it's a process, it's not a fast process. When you're rebranding your city, it's a slower process. Government doesn't work fast anyway, so it is certainly a process, a slow process, because you want to be smart in your economic growth. You want to make sure that you just don't let anything pop up. You want to have the things that are good, not some cheap something. So we're in the process of rebranding our city, and
Mr. Geierman, you're next to answer this one first. What do you consider is the most unsatisfactory aspect of the state of the city? What one thing do you really want to fix or change?
I just think that we have so much potential, really looking at where we are. We're at the crossroads of 285, MARTA, Buford Highway, 85 is not that far, Peachtree Industrial is back this way. We've got all of these reasons or ways for people to get to us, and we're not taking advantage of it. There was a corporate headquarters that recently located to Chamblee. I got a call from Councilman Anna Vitarde, who was here in the mid-2000s. He had actually tried to get them to come to Doraville, and he said that when you talked to them, they said they couldn't get anyone to return their phone calls. We're dropping the ball, and stories like that frustrate me, and that's the kind of thing that I would want to change to really be able to lure those types of businesses here. So that's probably the number one thing.
I think the number one thing I would change is up our marketing game, because at the end of the day, marketing our city with all the wonderful things that we have, again, the Beaufort Highway restaurants, the wonderful restaurants that we have, you can eat anything you want from anywhere. The proximity to 285, to the airport, I think our marketing is very important. I think I would change and up that game just a little bit, because that is also key to economic development and survival of the city.
When I ran for office in 2008, was on the city council, our plan was that this was the crossroads of North Georgia. This is the trading area for North Georgia. It was traditionally during the times when the Indians had the territory. It is now. It's a location. The fact that this location has been squandered is really the crime. The developers want to come here. It's because of, number one on their list, the ones I talked to, was the crazy politics in Doraville. It requires stability and connectivity and infrastructure to allow them to come in and build here and know that their investment is secure, stable, just like you want with your homes. Your homes, you have beautiful homes, the city itself should reflect the same thing, okay? And that is really the number one reason why I got from the developers why they don't want to come here. They're gonna invest maybe $1 billion. They're gonna spend 5 years of their life, and they want to live with the city, and it has to be a city they can live in. Thank you.
Ms. Pittman answering this one first. I'll read it verbatim. Will you support the new council mayor hire a new city manager? I'm thinking they're interested in the characteristics of the city manager.
Read it again, I'm sorry?
Will you support the new council mayor hire a new city manager?
So are they asking, maybe they're asking, should the old council versus the new council hire the city manager?
Oh, maybe that's the intent.
Yes,
Thanks.
yes, you're welcome. I think that, and we have already started the process, you don't wait till the last second to start that process, because it is a long process, and it is one of the most important positions that you're going to fill. So yes, we have already started that process of putting out information to get applications in, resumes in, and it most likely will filter into the new city council. So certainly if it gets to that point, I do support that.
Are we gonna take a break?
I think we're coming up on a spot where we're gonna take questions from the audience in a little bit.
I'm sorry, I had an operation when we started this campaign. And
Yeah.
it's hot.
Well, why don't we, can you wait till we
finish the question,
are
please?
going into the audience
Okay.
participation and
Okay.
then take a break then?
Yeah,
Can we wait a couple of
I
minutes?
think we need to wait until the new council mayor take office before we have a city manager, because the city manager is gonna be working with a new group of people, not the old group of people. So I don't support hiring one before the first of the year. I think we can get by for a month without a city manager. Thank you.
Well, I absolutely think the city needs a city manager of some sort on January 1st when the new council comes on board. I hope that the current council will find a interim city manager who is good and who can help run the city for 6 months or so while the new council. We can stop. Well, can we take 5 minutes?
Sure, yeah, you wanna finish what you're saying and then?
Well, I mean, we need an interim city manager. We need to make sure that person is on board a little bit before everyone else comes on, so they need to be on board and up to speed, and then we need to really get the new council up to speed on hiring the new manager.
I'm looking at that clock, which is a little bit fast in the back. It says 8,
8:07.
yeah. Well, let's go 5 minutes based on that clock, if everybody spins and look at it. It says 8:19, we'll start at 8:24 by next.
Yeah, but we're now gonna go to, you can raise your hand and we'll, so if you happen to write a question that didn't get addressed, or if you wanna ask another kind of question, just, go ahead, just keep it, just a second. Keep it professional,
We're gonna switch to, taking questions directly from the audience. And, just asking for decorum, keep the question kinda short, it's not for pontificating necessarily, it's more to question the candidates, if you will.
no personal attacks.
So that was the first hand I saw, that gentleman in the back.
I'll start with Mayor Pittman, but for all three candidates. You had mentioned earlier, schools being important. What can Doraville's mayor and city council in particular do to help guide Doraville citizens toward being potentially more active and get better results through the DeKalb County School Board?
Well, certainly communication with the school board and with the school superintendent. I had lots of communications and lots of meetings with the school board and lots of meetings with Dr. Green. That's actually how we ended up with the new school, which I'm very excited about. But I think working with our citizens, because you have to be a voice and you have to be a loud voice. You have to let them know you disagree or you agree or what you want. Because that old saying, the squeaky wheel gets the most, because they really do. Proof of that was at last night's meeting. So, I mean, they were going to turn Oak Cliff into a regular school rather than the theme school, but people came out in droves. They emailed, they called me, they emailed many of the council people, and so they have now since switched it back, and they're going to remain a theme school. But involvement. You don't have to have kids, just get involved.
Should we switch the order, and that way?
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. We'll switch the questions, we'll switch the order, we'll go,
Well, I agree with Mayor Pittman that we do need to be involved and we need to make our voices heard. As elected officials, the mayor and city council should be at the forefront of advocating for Doraville's best interests. I do think that while it's great that the school board is investing in a new facility to relieve overcrowding, I'm still concerned that most of the people who are in this room, if they have children, your kids would not go to the new school. They're still going to go to Cary Reynolds or Hightower. At least the current districting plan really seems to mostly pull people from the apartments along Beaufort Highway to go to that school. And I think it's important to speak up, because if you want your kids to be going to that school, you need to be going to the school board meetings and telling people. And I also think that we need to be advocating for the city for the school board to invest in the facilities that they do have.
The city of Doraville, since the 90s, has neglected the school system. We used to have a high school in the middle of town, all the events that go with that high school in the middle of the town, and they're gone. And the reason why is because we have a great working relationship with the surrounding cities. We get the trash, they have lemonade days. And so we're surrounded by cities that are larger, have many more voices than we do. And we've been reluctant to say anything about the situation because we didn't support the local schools. It means $100,000 in property values per house in the city of Doraville because of its poor schools. So you don't think we need to make an investment? It's either going to be charter schools, promote private school construction in the city, but we have to do something in this city because it's a key component in the valuation and the growth of this city. We don't do something about the school system, access, even in Chamblee, they have even access to St. Pius and Marist, as well as Chamblee High School and the quality schools they have there. We don't have that. Thank you.
yes.
I just really, it's just for an FYI, just for everyone, at last night's meeting, there are different options And they are going to be pulling possibly from Hightower, or possibly from Cary Reynolds, or maybe from none of these schools. So it's real important that you go online and look at those and attend those meetings, so you can have input on where those kids from our community go.
Either of you gentlemen wanna add a sentence or two or not?
Well, the other thing that I wanted to say is it's just important to be focusing on the schools that we already have too, because I think that DeKalb gets carried away building new things, but they're not investing in the campuses that they do have. And when you look at Cary Reynolds and the shape it's in, even with a lot of volunteer effort, it's in very sad shape. And I would like to see the city really advocate for those schools, for Hightower, and making sure that those are better for the students who go to those schools.
I'd like to add one more thing. We don't have a great relationship with Dr. Green. When they did the TAD for the GM site, DeKalb County voted yes, but they did it on the condition that the school board was gonna vote no. They're just political cover. Well, what happened is the school board and Dr. Green said this is a bad investment. Brookhaven didn't need a TAD to build town center. We didn't need a TAD here to develop the best site in the eastern part of the United States. So what we did is that the DDA purchased the property to make it tax-free, and we got around Dr. Green and didn't pay the school board taxes on the site. So we can't expect to get new stuff here if we're abdicating our responsibility to pay the taxes to the school. Thank you.
Another question, that's the gentleman in the plaid shirt here.
At the present time, we have almost no code enforcement in the neighborhoods, as far as I'm concerned. People put stuff out on the street any old time they want to. Sometimes we have to look at it for a week or two before it's picked up. There's trucks and tractors and junk all over the neighborhoods, and the city refuses to do anything about it. And it's detracting from the value of our homes. I'd like to know what each of you would do to change this.
I forgot who started.
The problem is because the maintenance department going from 18 people to 5, we got 3 people in charge of 2 people. And we don't have, you used to be able to put a dead elephant out on Monday and they'd pick it up because we have a maintenance department with a clamp truck, et cetera, firewood, et cetera, they would pick up. You could go get the maintenance department, you could get mulch, we had a chipper truck. The street sweeper would come by at least once a week. We don't have those services anymore. That's the problem, and that is a problem with this government right now. The code enforcement should be coming through a building official enforcing building codes in the city. It's not the grass police. We don't need to pay $100,000 a year to 6 people to go around and give some lady that's on oxygen a ticket for her dandelions. That's not what's causing the problem.
So, you know, I do agree that I think that the stuff lying on the side of the road is probably one of the biggest problems. Some letters have gone out saying that the city raised the fee on the trash service. Part of the reason for that is that the fee had not been paying for the service for a number of years, and we were trying to catch it up. I think the other reason behind that is the city is going, I don't know, I've heard that there's some chance that they may not do this now, but the idea was that the city would actually start picking up mattresses and all this stuff that's left at the side of the road. It's just the biggest complaint that we get code enforcement wise. And it's, a lot of people just don't know. There's language issues, there's other reasons that happens, and I think it would make all of our neighborhoods a lot better if we actually did have that pickup service again, and that's why that fee increase was made, and I hope that the current council is able to sign the contract with the new trash service.
So yes, bulk goods is our biggest challenge. We get more complaints on bulk goods than anything else. Part of our process to find a new garbage service is to make sure that they will pick up the bulk goods. We want that included in that. It's quite costly for the city to pick it up and to take it to the dump. Prices have gone up over the years, so part of that process is to get the new garbage service to pick it up on the same day that they pick up your garbage. So there's no question about it out here, out there, whenever. It's on the same day, everything's picked up on the same day. So that is the goal that the council is working on, is to have that, because we know that's a huge problem.
everybody got a chance to respond to that.
This is a question for the entire panel. Aspen Woods has been forcefully annexed into Doraville. We used to have a lot of homeowners. Now we got quite a few renters. We have been neglected, abused, misused, and everything. And we have not gotten the service that we actually paid for. We got higher taxes. We have to call in for picking up the trash and other ills that you already mentioned. What would you all do to make that difference to put Aspen Woods on the map as part of this city of Doraville? Because for 8 years we have been neglected. We have 5 major water breaks, and our streets are crumbling before us, and we have all kind of issues.
The question is, what would you do to help integrate Aspen Grove and improve their services?
Well, Aspen Woods is very unique. When they came into our city, there was a very unique contract that was with DeKalb County, where normally the parking lot and the parking areas would be private. There was an agreement with DeKalb County that made it public. There were funds from each resident, $12 going into a fund in DeKalb County. We are fighting to get that money back. That money is now coming into our budget for the road repairs. We have spent numerous hours over there with staff, with council members, to try to work with them. It is a huge challenge. I understand that, and we appreciate your concerns. In all due respect, we've tried really hard to resolve those issues, and we will continue to do that. I think we've come to a common resolution. One of the biggest challenges over there is the community is split. This half wants, the other half does not want, and we're trying to work with them to make sure that we can bring it together. We're fixing to do a survey. We're going to send out a survey. The city manager is to actually find out if we can get a majority of what everyone wants over there to be able to help with all the services that you have.
We're reversing the orders, Mr. Geierman.
Well, I think Aspen Woods did get the short end of the stick on a lot of that. I think you guys have been part of Doraville for over 10 years now, right? So
15, 20 years.
So 15 years plus. In all that time, they've been paying a $12.50 fee to DeKalb County to maintain their roads. They have not seen any road improvement based on that money for that whole time. And so DeKalb County has been collecting that money and just sitting on it for all of this time, so 18 years. I think that the city needs to be a better advocate for you. The city needs to be fighting on your behalf for that money. And the city needs to be working to include Aspen Woods and make you more a part of Doraville. I understand that when we have movie nights, we aren't putting the movie night signs out in front of your neighborhood like we do with other neighborhoods. I don't think that's right. I think that we just need to be doing a much better job of involving you in Doraville.
I don't know why we have all these people involved in getting your parking lot paved. You paid the money to DeKalb County. DeKalb County Roads and Drains, run by Ted Reinhardt at DeKalb County, needs to get all their 1,000 trucks and equipment over here and pave your parking lot. I don't know, why are we getting the money, then we're gonna hire an engineering firm, and then we're gonna get a subcontractor. Your $12.50 by the time Doraville is finished with it's gonna be about $1.98. So we need to get that resolved. We need to pave Winters Chapel Road that should have been done 10 years ago. Instead of putting stripes on top of cracked asphalt over there, we spent $120,000 that they're gonna have to tear right back out again. This city, when it comes to paving the roads, and incidentally, the right-of-ways in the city and belong either to GDOT or they belong to DeKalb County. Doraville is supposed to take care of those roads now, but they don't belong to us. Thank you.
Gentlemen, doing the
I'd like you to temper your answer for maybe many of us here who bought in Doraville, myself 25 years ago, very intentionally, because of what Doraville was, what it seemed to be, what I know it could be, based on what we see Chamblee doing now, only to see, those of us with that amount of history, only to see Doraville become what it's become, have the services go away, the taxes go up, much of what's been addressed. So here's what I want to ask each of you. When did you first get involved with Doraville? What year? In what way? And what would you do as mayor to identify when that change started flipping in Doraville from when Doraville used to have a lot more going on to now that it doesn't? So how long have you been involved with Doraville, and can you identify when that change occurred, and what would you do as mayor to address that flip whenever you see that?
Our location has Mr. Geierman on this first.
All right, well, I moved to Doraville in 2001. I've been involved in the city in a number of ways. I was part of actually I used to help Susan Crawford deliver a little newsletter that she did. I helped Susan Frazee set up the ONA email list. I used to moderate the Northwoods Neighborhood Association list. I've served on the Planning Commission. I've served on the Comprehensive Plan Committee. I served on City Council. I think that my frustration with Doraville is more that it has not done much over the last 10 years. I think we had a very rough transition from the strong mayor form of government to the city manager form of government. I think there's been a lot of push and pull from different sides in terms of just kind of getting what that means. And I think that to really be successful, what we need to be focusing on is economic development and bringing more businesses here, changing the story about what Doraville is. So, sorry, it's a long answer.
Mr. Hart?
I've lived here since 1986. The first time I became aware of being in the city was the late 90s when they decided to drain the lake across from my house and build some cheap houses in the middle of it. That's when I knew maybe something's not all together at the city. And after that, I ran for mayor the first time, and I had a friend from Germany that wanted to invest in the GM site, but it was the first 46 acres, and then we're going to build what is in South Gwinnett County now. It's called the Braves Complex. Well, the city didn't like that. They threw that away. And then when I was on the city council, I started the Kiwanis Club here, the soapbox derby races, the Doraville car show. I hired the first planner for the city. We set up the planning commission. I wrote a 120-page zoning ordinance for the city. We set up branding for the city, newspaper, website. I'm done. Oh, sorry. That's okay.
So I've been involved in the city since I lived here in a number of ways. I've been on many committees, from school committees to city committees.
What year?
Well, let's see, 32 years ago when I moved here. So there has been changes, but there's been some not so good changes and some very positive changes, and we continue to move forward. You have to have a council that wants to continue to move the city forward. You have to have a council and mayor that works cohesively together, and I think that's economic development is a big one. So you continue to work toward those goals with your council to make our city and continue making our city better.
Gentleman in the gray.
Everybody wants economic development, which is
Could you
absolutely.
stand up so that
Everybody-
part of it is the people behind you?
Everybody here wants economic development. All right. Several people have expressed the downtown development, which I agree with 100%. There's a big caveat. Some people the other night talked about selling. Other people have not talked. Anyway, my point is, what do you feel about selling the property that we own versus leasing it so that we have control over what moves in and what what development is there? If we sell a property to somebody, the mistake we made at the GM plant, we didn't have enough oversight. We let it get away from us to a large extent. If we sell the property downtown, our what we have left, or this building across the street, then we have no control over what development we have. If we lease the property, then, and we put in conditions, we have the ability to control what we're getting.
So the question is selling versus leasing city
Correct.
property for redevelopment. Mr. Hart, the rotation is you first.
The city was founded in 1871. It's accumulated properties, much of it we can owe to Ms. Lang's dad, who was instrumental in purchasing a lot of the downtown properties so that we have, this city, this property right here was purchased by her dad. We control those things, and every developer, a quality developer, is not asking for a free lunch program. We control these sites. We should never sell them because we do control, we can use them for park property. This is a civic block that we have. We have an opportunity to build a town square with 2-story buildings. We have plenty of places that are already zoned, even parceled out for brownstones and quality housing in the downtown area. It's all underneath all this covering you see right now, a town that was laid out at the turn of the century. There really is, every developer I've talked to of quality says that you've got it all right here. You don't have to sell it. You just have to work with the city and with the people that own the properties around here. You don't have to take their property, but they want it to participate. Thank you.
I would not be in favor of leasing the property. I think we need to have control over what happens with the property. Again, we have to have money. A master development would be beneficial to developing some of the property. I don't think leasing is an option. I think we certainly should hang on to our property that we already have. And some of it we couldn't lease anyways or sell because of the parkland. That's a huge challenge for us, and we would have to work through it.
So, I mean, there's a lot of land here that we could lease or sell. I think that's a question for the council. I'm fine with leasing, and I do think that Mr. Anderson is right that it does provide a little bit more control of what gets built. I will say that Doraville never owned the GM plant. GM owned the GM plant, so who they sold it to was kind of based on whoever they could find to buy it. You know, and I disagree on the master developer comment. I do think, you know, even this building and the building next door are both really, you know, relatively underutilized and could be turned into something. We're literally right across the street from a MARTA station. There's companies that are dying to build their corporate headquarters right across from a MARTA station. We should be utilizing that now and bringing their tax revenue into our city.
Gentleman in the back with the black shirt, center.
Just to keep things fresh and keep things moving, because the city has been stagnant, everybody's been saying we've been sliding backwards. Would you agree to having term limits for mayor and for city council? Doesn't mean that you can't run again, but you can serve 2 terms in a row. Then you have to step back a little bit and somebody else comes in with fresh ideas and things like that. Would you agree to term limits?
Absolutely.
It's hard, I'm not sure.
Just go ahead.
Mr. Hart, you can start that.
100%. Once these people get in office, they're like chiggers. You can't get rid of them.
Yes, I would agree. I would be in agreement with that. I think if that's what the community wanted, certainly support that.
Yeah, I think 8 years is a long time for someone to get their agenda accomplished, and I would be fine with working with the council on identifying term limits. I think we're about to come up to the census period. It's going to be a time to reevaluate a lot of things about how our government works, and I think it would be a good time to talk about that.
Gentleman in eyeglasses and.
Yeah, I have a question primarily for Mr. Hart. You know, you've made some interesting allegations this evening, some interesting discussion about what you would want to, what you think specifically of the problems that the government is dysfunctional and needs to be changed. What I'm curious about is what exactly you would do to change it, to move it to the way you think it should be going.
A think if you read the primary lawsuit, which is the cracked driveway lawsuit, which is more than just one person, it's a collection of people in the lawsuit. And they interviewed probably 30 people when it started. And it was really because the government is set up to take in $3 or $4 million a year. It budgets $3 or $4 million a year. They're intending to take your money in a traffic stop so they can run the city. It's already budgeted. The second thing is you need to have a building official that's enforcing building codes. For these multifamily houses people complain about, you need a building official with code enforcement there. Code enforcement right now runs at the discretion of the mayor and council, and it becomes subjective. It becomes, they use it like a force to control votes, money, how things are done in the city, and that's what this lawsuit addresses. So you have to get away
We're
from.
out of time on this. Sorry. Ms. Pittman, you wanna respond or not?
Well, I think that, one of the most important things is having a council and mayor that works together with staff. That's really important, because you have to have that cohesiveness, and you don't always get along, but you need to be able to get along and have the agenda and the wishes of the city, and to move that forward, not just one person's agenda. But I think that's really the key to moving the city forward. One of the keys to moving the city forward is having a council and a mayor that sets goals and works toward that.
I'll kind of play on that theme. I think that it's really important to have have the mayor and council working together towards a common goal. I think what is also important is having a mayor who has a vision, and you can help the city council come to consensus around that vision. You can help build the vision with the city council. And I think that a lot of what we've done up to this point is really kind of wait for things to happen to us, wait for developers to come to us, whereas what I think we really need is some forward-thinking leadership and some collaboration and some building towards the future. Because if we don't, I think that we're going to be here 4 years from now talking about all the empty storefronts and the fact that Beaufort Highway looks half empty. So, thanks.
The lady in the back in red.
Thank you, Dave. My question is, will you take specific action to publish the city's checkbook on the city's website if you're elected mayor?
Let's see, our rotation is,
That is not a normal procedure, but if that's what the council and that's what the citizens wanted, then certainly. That is something that, if that's what the council majority wanted to do, absolutely would agree with it.
So I think that Dunwoody has something like that. I think it's a software package. I would love to have that. I would love to work with the council on making it happen. I don't know what the cost of it is, but I certainly, I think more transparency is better. I want to see better reporting on our website. I want to be letting people know what we're spending your money on and get feedback about those things and make sure that we're level setting the right way.
We haven't had a financial balance sheet, P&L statement, nothing on the website in 12 years. We're required by our current laws, our current rules for financials, to have every month, supposed to have a financial statement. It hasn't happened in 12 years. Yes, we need to have the checkbook online, we need to have the financials online, and there should be a monthly statement. Like I said, it hadn't happened in 12 years, so I don't know what y'all were doing, but this is something that could have been rectified today. It still hasn't. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I can't see what you're wearing. Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm short, I'm sorry. What actions would you take to make Doraville more pedestrian friendly
which would help future-proof us a bit for future climate change or just wanting to get the heck out of our cars and not have to use them so much. What actions would you take to help improve our city in that respect?
I think, rotations, Mr. Geierman first on this?
Sure. I think start with simple things. While I was on council, one of the things that I strongly advocated for, I hope it gets done soon, is changing where the crosswalk at Park Avenue and Buford Highway goes. Right now, you have to go across the street into a place where there's no sidewalk, and then you have to cross again. So having just another crosswalk there to the sidewalk is a simple fix. I think more pedestrian improvements along Winters Chapel Road, before any other changes to the road, those are things that we should look at just to make it safer, because there's so many people who use the bus there. I think the zoning that we use is really important. I think the fact that we have a MARTA station here means this could be a much more walkable community. I've talked to a lot of people who want to see more bike lanes along New Peachtree Road, just different ways to get around. And I think that those different ways of getting around and not having to get into your car would actually make our community a little bit more connected.
The GDOT 5 connectors plus the 2 local connectors, that's 7, would provide that kind of walkability. There was supposed to have been a traffic light at English Oak, Windchase Apartments, supposed to have been one at Chestnut, there's supposed to be the South Peachtree connector. All those provided that you could walk across Beaver Highway, ride your bicycle across Beaver Highway. The street right out here is supposed to be a 65-foot right-of-way. The street's only 20 feet wide. It was supposed to have all those things built into it. The traffic light's $150,000, but we're spending this time $600,000 on Oak Cliff. Okay, we need to use the money wisely and work with GDOT and the state of Georgia to put those 5 major connectors together, and you'll get all the walkability you want. It was thrown in the trash can. We need to bring it back. It's not going to cost us any money because the state of Georgia is going to pay for it. Thank you.
I certainly agree. We need more crosswalks, protected bike lanes, trails, and connectivity is very, very important. We have started some of that process. Some of that money, SPOS money, will be spent on some of those things. So it's very important. We're becoming more of a walkable city, and we want to make that safer for everyone, especially with protected bike lanes.
Lady in green.
So my question is, there's been a lot of talk about the fact that there's not a lot of commercial growth and development in our city, which I think we can all agree on. The rundown, empty businesses that are up and down all of our major roadways definitely make it undesirable for anybody who want to actually come here to this city and enjoy anything that we have to offer. My question to you is, for mayor, would you guide the city manager and the city council in order to put in codes, enforcements, and embed fines into these people that refuse to sell their buildings or maintain them, and make sure that if any cops or fire departments that have to go out there to take care of them because they've been broken into or they're squatters, that you send them invoices for what that costs, but to pull our cops away from keeping our houses safe, and those businesses that don't want to take responsibility for the buildings that they own.
Quotation with Mr. Hart first on this one.
The reason why the downtown buildings and places like the Kmart property, the post office downtown, the old Union Hall, is because the city, in one way or another, through the DDA or our ownership, we control those. And we purposely threw the people out of the city buildings 10 years ago and have refused to maintain them. The reason why they're dilapidated, and for one reason only. It's like the soccer field. Those buildings remained up, even though we're paid $130,000 in demo permit fees. They remained up because we could be called a blighted city as part of the reconstruction. The city voted to be a blighted city. The only reason why those are vacant right now, the city of Doraville needs to get out of the way and let's get this train back on the tracks. The only thing holding it up is City Hall. Thank you.
So yes, again, it goes back to economic development, but our new economic development person will be tasked with going and finding people to fill those buildings or tear them down. And I think that the city council and mayor needs to work toward, making sure that those things are not just there when a project is supposed to take place. I think we need to put time limits on it, so it's not just sitting there and sitting there vacant, not for years. So I think, you know, by putting time limits and having our economic development person go out there and market those areas is the key to solving that, and code enforcement as well.
So, the city passed a blight law a few years ago. I'm not sure why we haven't actually been using it for some of these properties. I don't think that we've, as far as I know, we haven't fined anyone. Mayor Pittman can tell me if I'm wrong, I guess. But, you know, there are a lot of properties that have not been maintained, and we aren't enforcing the standards that, that we expect from homeowners. I think that we should be a little bit harder on them, because there are a lot of people who, if you look up and down Beaufort Highway, they have bought these properties and they're just holding on to them for future development. We should make it as hard as possible for them to just hold on to them and not take care of them. And if there is a way in the state of Georgia to charge people for not using a property, I would certainly want to look at that too. I'm not sure if that's legal by the state law, but I would look at that as well.
On the personal privilege, of course.
Change roles for a minute. We recently had a fire at the recycling trash center that's right next to the tank farms. And it took quite a while, because it was rush hour traffic, the peak of rush hour traffic, for the fire trucks to get there. Would you guys consider putting something like sprinklers? I mean, it would be very simple. The fire started inside and then spread through the wall to the outside. Would you consider putting sprinklers there?
So, I think that would be something that the council would have to look into, develop as an ordinance to have sprinklers put into private buildings like that. It's not a bad idea, but I think it would be something to look at. And there may be some regulations that is regulated by fire services to have that anyways, especially in something like that. And I don't know that they didn't have that, but it's certainly worth researching.
Well, I mean, anyone who was here saw the billow of smoke, so knows what you're talking about. I definitely think we should look at our zoning and our code and make sure that, that A, hopefully they were following it and they weren't, you know, operating without sprinklers if they were supposed to. But then B, we should look at our zoning and our ordinances around those types of businesses and make sure that, you know, as a safety issue, you should have sprinkler systems in those buildings. I think that should be something that we could address in our zoning.
Well, let's start with the most important issue first. You're paying for a fire station. You look in your tax bill, you're paying for a fire station. There's only one small problem. Doraville doesn't have a fire station. Every city around us has a fire station. We have a potential fire over here with a tank farm. We should have a fire station. We're paying for it, and they should be loaded up with foam to fight a gasoline fire. If a tanker turns over on the on-ramp, they're gonna be waiting until Christmas and they show up from the airport over here. Okay, the trash dump should never been there. They celebrate Lemonade Days in Dunwoody. They do that because they recovered from their tornado. Where did all the trash go from the tornado? It went to Doraville. So they celebrate Lemonade Days. We celebrate Lemon Rind Days, I guess. Thank you.
Gentlemen and Jack?
So obviously, we've had a lot of discussion and questions about economic development in the city. And mine is a very specific piece of that in the Peachtree Creek Greenway. I haven't heard anybody ask about it yet, but just taking a look at what's happening around the Atlanta Beltline in the city, even the undeveloped part of the South Loop around the south end of Grant Park, not even built yet, and it's booming with development. So we've got an opportunity to do what Brookhaven's already done, which looks beautiful if anybody hasn't seen it yet. Chamblee's already committed to it. What are your thoughts on Doraville finishing our piece of the Beltline, or the Peachtree Creek Greenway that's going to connect to the Beltline, and we even have a micro fraction of the success of development on the Beltline on that greenway could answer a lot of problems. I just want to get your thoughts on, your support or not support of the Greenway, and how can we fund it?
Mr. Geierman, you can finish on this?
So, I'm a big supporter of the Peachtree Creek Greenway. I've been on several creek walks. I was at the opening for the Brookhaven Mile. I do think it's a proven way of developing our economy and kind of generating some positive buzz about our city. I hope that we do get started on that very quickly. I would love to see, you know, whether it's using some of the funds from whatever whatever downtown redevelopment project we do here, using some of that to work on trails, including the Peachtree Creek Greenway and some other connectivity trails in other parts of the city. But I do think it's going to be a critical piece of our development as we go into the next 10 years.
Mr. Hart.
Okay. Connectivity, one of the primary reasons why Northwoods was developed, because it was a fully integrated community with walking spaces between the houses to get to adjacent blocks. We have properties that are set up in Northwoods for that purpose. The second thing is, if you're gonna do a downtown development, what are you gonna do with the water? What the state wanted to do, the EPA wanted to do, is bring back Stewart Lake, which is a key lake, just like they have at Silver Lake down in Brookhaven, which is a key component to redevelop the neighborhood built around this lake basin. This greenway would connect to this lake basin as part of the attraction. And so I'm a big supporter of these interconnectivity things, that redevelopment, like I said, with the 7 connectors and 5 GDOT connectors in the city, it would make things so you could walk. I've traveled the whole city.
That's time, unfortunately.
And yes, I do agree. I sit on the Peachtree Gateway Partnership with a group of mayors, our surrounding mayors, and we're not only working to develop plans for here, but regionally. And so I do support that 100%, and we do have some funds set aside. It's exciting to have some of our citizens sit on some of the boards. So I think it is a key. Connectivity, trails is really important, and vitality to our city.
Unfortunately, we're out of time. In fact, probably that last question snuck in a little late. So at this point in time, we're gonna allow each candidate, as Susan explained, 2 minutes to kind of wrap up. Mr. Hart started first with the opening statement, so we'll start with Ms. Pittman and go to for Mr. Hart.
Thank you so much. First of all, thank you, and thank you very much. We appreciate your time and efforts put into this. It was a really great event, so we appreciate everything. It is known that long-time, stable, and consistent leadership results in multiplied impact and advancement. Potential developers seek the stability residents and existing businesses are comfortable with and prosper with that stability. I bring stable and consistent leadership with fresh ideas, relationships, and the ability to get things done. My leadership commitment, as you have seen in the past, is to support the broad and diverse community and the needs. I promise to continue this leadership and never take for granted, but to engage and be responsive. I know and love my city, and we together will build on our past as we look forward and move ahead. We have just begun to see the deep seeds that have been sown, and my continued leadership will result in a Doraville that enhances everyone's lives. And I would be honored to have your vote on November 5th.
So, thank you guys, Dave, Susan, Patty, Ben. Thank you all for being here. You know, I'm running for mayor because leadership matters. I really do think that who we have as the mayor is the person who's going to help the council come to consensus and move forward on so many important issues. We have 2 people here today who've been on the ballot, you know, almost every election cycle since, well, Tom said the 80s, but you know, every election cycle since at least I've lived here. And, you know, I think really if you look at where we are and where we've been going, I think part of it really says it's time to make a break from the past and to choose some new leadership. Communication is really important to me. I think that hopefully a lot of you have been on my newsletter mailing list. If you haven't been on my email list, shoot me an email at joseph@doraville.net. I'll be happy to add you. It's important for me to tell you what I'm working on as a civic, someone who's serving you civically. And I'm also committed to making sure that the city government does a better job of communicating with you as well. I know there's a lot of challenges in dealing with City Hall, a lot of challenges when you go there and not being told the right thing right away. Just general communication challenges that we can fix. I think we need to make sure that all of our different neighborhoods are included as the city moves forward, that we have more boards, more commissions, and that we involve the people more in our decision-making process. And that's why I hope, whether you vote on November 5th or you early vote, which you can do in Brookhaven or Dunwoody up into the end of next week, I hope you vote for me, Joseph Geierman. Thank you very much.
To me, running for the mayor's job is really a volunteer position for me. I don't need the money. I think that we need to lower the salary for both the mayor and the council people. We need to cut the taxes by 25%. And we need to get the city back on track again. It has all the resources it needs. It's got a location that these other cities do not enjoy. And we need to understand that this isn't about the government and City Hall. It's about the citizens here. So I want to unlock the City Hall, unlock those doors, so that people can come in and have a conversation with the mayor, a building official, their taxes, and understand they have one place to go to get this done, and those doors are always open to these individuals in the city. Everybody's got a different plan in different parts of the city, but we have one plan that we want. We want to be a better, a city that we enjoy living in and are proud of. I'm going to take a line from Barack Obama when he was trying to choose a vice president. He had friends that were his 2 to 3 years within his age group. They didn't have any experience. And he said, those are the people I want to work with as the vice president, but none of us know what to do when we get in the White House. So he thought Joe Biden was the answer because he had the experience, he'd been in the Senate, he knew the foreign relations. So he had to make a decision with emotion or his heart, or to use an intellect in his mind, that Biden would be the better choice because it was an intellectual choice. I want you, when you go to the polls, think about the best person for the job that has the most experience, and think with your mind, not your heart. It's not personal. It's not about your neighbors or your feelings. It's about the person that can do the best job for your city. Thank you.
Concludes things. Again,